Welcome to the first episode of the Millennial Coffee Review. My name is Josh Reinhardt, and I'm joined with my fellow co-hosts and fellow nerds, Jeremiah and Ryan, today. This week we will be spoiling the Batman. So if you haven't caught up on the Batman or you just don't care, then enjoy watching these spoilers. So, our first thoughts, what are they?
My dog immediately barked when you started doing the intro, and
I can't hear it. I feel fine.
That's good. That's good. I hope that we didn't ruin the first take.
What's your thoughts on the new Batman movie?
I really enjoyed it. I took my wife out to see it on the Wednesday night premiere, and she was, only way to convince your wife is if she enjoys the Twilight films, and then you go, whoa, did you know that Edward is in this? And man, she couldn't get in the theater fast enough.
Oh, 100%. That's my fiance was. I basically told her, it's like, Robert BATinson is Batman and Zoe Kravitz is Catwoman, and she's like, the sex that just appeals off those two right there, like, it's just gonna be a horny movie. I mean, so we saw a really horny Batman. Like, that's the best way to describe the movie. It's a good horny movie.
Yeah, did you just say that the sex peels off of them?
Yeah, it just peels off. It peels off like sheets. Like, they're like onions of sex is what they are. They're sex onions.
You get down to the
I don't know if I buy the sexual tension between them, but maybe we save that for the spoilers.
I don't know. They were apparently fucking the entire time this movie was going on.
I mean, when you're as attractive as both of them, you might as well, right?
I mean, Robert BATinson can do some stuff to me.
Yeah.
But so the kind of way we'll go through it is we've already done our non-spoiler review on our podcast, the Millennial Coffee Break.
So we're spoiling. I didn't know
we're
that.
starting out. So we're starting out with whatever you feel. So
great. I mean, the spoilers are here. I mean, that kiss was completely unearned.
Yeah,
They didn't wait for it at all. It was just, I mean, if they had done anything outside of, like, I don't know, they met like 3 times and then they just started making out, and I was like, I don't think this was acceptable.
I've met some people one time and started making out with them, so I'm not going to bash them for meeting 3 times.
Did you think that kiss was earned, though?
He's Batman. He earns everything.
I'm talking about your kisses on the first night that you met someone.
Oh,
did you earn those kisses, or did you just get them?
I'm not willing to disclose.
They're gifted kisses.
A gentleman never tells.
A gentleman never tells. Yeah, I felt like it should have been toward the end. Like, maybe they just could have just taken that scene and put it at the end.
Yeah,
or just had
they pushed it a little further. But then the next time that they were on the same roof, it was her trying to murder someone. So it was kind of kills the mood, you know.
Other than the awkward
murder kiss
scene, what did you guys think about her performance as Catwoman?
I thought she portrayed it fantastically. Like, I really enjoyed the way it built up her backstory and the way that she kind of connected with the main characters. I guess we can spoil everything, but
you can spoil whatever you want. How she was Falcone's daughter.
I don't want to. I kind of want to start at the front and drag through to the back, and I feel like we've already not started at the front because we started talking about Selena Kyle for the most part. But yeah, I really liked her portrayal. I thought that her motives were warranted, and I liked the way that she kind of interacted with Batman, where she was really still mistrusting of him. She's like, I don't know about this guy, but I kind of have to work with him to accomplish my goals.
Yeah, I like that she kept calling him Vengeance. It's kind of like when Mary Jane calls Spider-Man Tiger. Like, it was like her like sexy pet name for him. He was like, here's Vengeance.
My wife asked me after the movie, she goes, when did he change his name from Vengeance to Batman? And I was like, well,
Dark Vengeance.
I think he's known as the Batman, but he also, I'm like, is he walking around like all the time? I'm Vengeance. You know, is that what the criminals are like? Oh my God, it's Vengeance, guys! Watch out!
Vengeance is stalking the streets. Why does his emblem look like a bat? Should be a bee. What is this?
Why does he dress like a bat?
God, just imagine your wife in the theater when that first scene happens. Robert BATinson just beating the shit out of that clown guy. He's like, "Who are you? I'm Vengeance." She's like, "I thought he was Batman."
Is he changed yet? What is he? It's year 2. I'm still thinking up the name.
Okay, am I the only one who was waiting for Batman to bring her a proper cowl? Because the whole time she wears this awful ski mask that's cut into cat ears. And I thought he was going to bring her like a proper cowl and be like, here, you look ridiculous in that. Because I could swear
I thought it was a lame hat, but like it accentuated all the rest.
I could swear that in the posters she had like a decent looking cat cowl on, but I'll have to look at them closer.
Yeah,
because I don't know.
I feel like I don't know. It was better than I'm trying to think the other Catwoman. I don't like Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman outfit. I think it's kind of silly with it's all being ripped up. What's her name? Just wears like an eye mask. Anne Hathaway just wears eye masks.
Yeah.
Well, she has also the little cat ear,
like the goggles that flip up. So I guess it was like the best hood that was on one, but I get what you mean. She didn't wear it for the entire time.
Well,
I was
I'm
like,
trying to look at the promotional images because I could swear there was one where she is wearing the cat cowl, and I'm like, I don't see one now. I just see Zoe Kravitz and everything.
It was all in your mind. You thought that it was just gonna be.
It was completely in my head. I'm just thinking of Michelle Pfeiffer, I guess.
One of the things I really liked about her character, you kind of hit on it a little bit, where she had like her own like thing, but it felt like she was doing her own thing for the whole movie. Like Batman was just helping her with her goals.
Yeah.
So instead of it feeling like Batman had like a bunch of characters helping him figure out who the Riddler was, which is the villain of this movie, right?
Was he the villain though? Like, was he a villain? Like,
I don't know.
Was he really a bad guy?
To be honest. Yeah. It just there's.
Yes, he was a bad guy. He murdered multiple people, which granted some warranted murder, some unwarranted, and then he flooded the city, causing millions of dollars in damage and likely deaths. I mean, floods kill a lot of people, you know.
Nice, you got me there.
The thing that sucks about it the most is that like floods affect people that are poor, like in poverty-ridden areas more than they affect people who are rich. And he was killing all the rich people, and then he flooded all the poor people. So it was like,
you would think,
going for?
What's the motivation there? Also, how was their flood evacuation plan to go into Madison Square Gardens? I mean, sorry, Gotham Square Garden, and it was below sea level. Like all of a sudden, water rushes into the top of these doors and just starts flooding down the bottom where all the people are.
That's real though. A lot of stadiums are built down into the ground.
Well, you don't go there to flood.
Why did they evacuate to that area specifically and say, "Oh, it's a hurricane shelter"? Well, it's flooding. This is a terrible idea.
I guess you're right because they did specifically say to go to this location.
Yeah, you should be going into all the tall buildings in your city that are, above the floor. I mean, I don't know. And if you haven't seen the movie, I don't know how you're going to get to this point understanding wise, but essentially
we have okay. I guess let's restart. Movie opens. Our first view of Batman is kind of through this like. I thought it was a really good way to kind of introduce him. I thought it was like one of the best introductions of Batman in any movie, where it shows all of the villains like doing their various dastardly things. Like there's a mugging happening, there's a robbery happening, there's all these different things happening, and they're all doing their things, but they all
not villains, just general criminals,
scum.
Yeah, just scum,
looking,
people. They all catch a glimpse at the sky and see the bat symbol, and they all like freak the hell out, right?
Yeah.
So it all becomes like in the background, he kind of is talking about how he doesn't know what he's doing yet, but the fact that he is beating people up in the city acts as a deterrent for crime because everyone thinks that the next, dark alley or whatever has him in it. And then eventually when he shows up, I thought it was a really, really cool, though a slow walk, a very cool like entrance for him.
His boots are so heavy.
I agree.
Like his
really
boots
heavy.
Like, I don't know if this guy's sneaking anywhere.
Yeah,
Honestly, I'm glad it was pouring rain because if it was silent in that subway, aside from the noises of beating up that one guy,
subway.
In the subway station, you would have heard. Sorry, the L station. I don't know what it is. It's Gotham, right? It's a subway. It's the L. It's whatever.
The Bat Train.
I'm pretty sure you would have heard his big clunky boots walking up. They're like, "Hey, I bet Batman's over there in the dark." But it was neat how he was kind of like, "I am the darkness," and so all of them look up to the sky and then they look behind them where it's dark and they run in the opposite direction of darkness because Batman just appears out of nowhere.
And yet you never know if he's in that shadow watching you do this crime, which I think is a really cool like aspect that I think the Christopher Nolan Batman movies does well, and then not a lot of the other ones do. Like introduce the aspect that like Batman's scary to people.
Yeah, definitely. It's I think his character was based a lot on fear in the Dark Knight and Dark Knight trilogy, but then they kind of didn't say his character is based in fear, but that's one of his superpowers, if you would call it that, is instilling fear into people. They know that he may be coming and they're expecting it. So I think we should push through and kind of walk through the plot so then we can talk about different pieces of it because I don't know. If someone hasn't seen the movie and they want to watch this, it'll be very confusing for them. but hopefully we can give them a better idea. Or I'm thinking of my criticisms as we walk through the movie, and I don't want to dive into a deep criticism that strings throughout the movie if we haven't talked about all of the elements of it yet.
I got you. So let's talk about the first act. First act is mostly Batman trying to hunt down this killer that's ravaging the rich people of Gotham. Like you got your mayor gets killed, your like chief of police gets killed, the district attorney gets killed, and he's going through and finding all of these things through
commissioner, not chief.
Commissioner.
Oh yeah, you're right, because then the commissioner becomes Gordon. You're right.
He was never awarded commissioner, if I remember right.
Yeah, not in the movie.
Did that happen in the final?
It was all like one night or whatever. That I guess it was a couple of nights, but
it's like a month.
What were y'all's thoughts of the initial setup to the plot of like the scary murders?
I thought it was fantastic.
Very Zodiac killer.
Yeah, it was very Zodiac killer, very serial killer-esque. Like I liked his outfit. It wasn't like funny or like typical Batman. It was like leather.
This guy's a psychopath. This movie happens in the real world. This guy's a psychopath. I mean, I always think it's weird that it only happens in superhero movies where villains will take videos of themselves and upload them to the internet to be plastered onto the news.
Yeah.
Can we talk about one scene where, like, at the end? Let's go into the end of the movie where they're like, yeah, he has like 500 followers, and they're like acting like that's a big deal. He's like in Gotham City with millions of people, and he's like, yeah, this guy's pretty big deal. He has 500 followers. Like, what?
I think they meant he has like 500 loyalists. You know,
okay.
A lot more. His videos are getting a lot more clout than just 500 followers. But his this would be like his Patreon tier 1 subscribers, because these are people that are committed to him and they're
paying in. I did read in the and this is also staying with that. I read in the in the little comments along the side, and a lot of them it was outlining what was going to happen at the end of the movie, where they were going to attack people, but it was talking about where to get the mask and what guns are better. One guy specifically points out that a shotgun is not better than a rifle, and the guy that beats that actually does any damage to Batman's guy
was the shotgun. So that part was funny. I also wonder, does the Gotham Police Department not have like an IT department or forensic investigators that work on the internet who would track down this guy's site and then subscribe to it as the police to then track all their activities? I mean, does that just not exist? You know, this guy uploads all his videos connected to this website. I'm like, hey, look, you've got IP addresses, you've got the website host, you've got the hosting information. This guy's got to have a credit card signed up to somewhere. I'm just thinking, hey, this happened in the current year. Police are tech savvy now. They're going to track this guy down easily through his technology.
But they're corrupt.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I forgot the entire police department is corrupt.
There's only 30 people that showed up to arrest Falcone. You think out of all those 30 foot cops, one of them knows how to hack a computer?
They're too busy with their mustaches doing mustache grooming.
Yeah, exactly. So this movie was very heavy on mustaches.
They're coming back, man. Mustaches
Everybody was wearing a mustache. And we were talking about this a little bit off camera, but Jeremiah was saying that he thought a character was Oscar Isaac that had a mustache. He described him, the guy with the mustache. And then for like 15 minutes, we were just talking about all the people who had mustaches that weren't the guy he was talking about. I was like, oh, was it this guy? Oh, no, was it the villain guy? Are you talking about Gordon? Are you talking about... Everybody has a mustache in this movie. And,
I truly did think that one cop was Oscar Isaac, though. If you know who I was talking about, you have the same thought. Obviously, let us know in the comments. But it was the guy who pushes Batman back. He's like, I hate Batman. Get him out of this crime scene. And then later, Bruce Wayne shows up to a different crime scene. This guy's like, Bruce Wayne, oh my god! Like, he fangirls over Bruce Wayne, but he hates Batman. Like, I love that concept for a character, because eventually he accepts Batman, and he's the one who helps him solve the final riddle. Which, again, I thought was a little obscene because... Jesus, my dog. I thought that the final riddle should have been solved hours before, and it would have been very easy to find all those things. You know?
Did you guys figure out what the plot of the movie was? Like, I thought that most of the riddles were kind of sort of easy to get. But I didn't know what was going on a lot of the movie. Like, I was like, what is he doing? Like, he kept alluding to the next clue will help you figure out the whole thing. And I was like, what is it, though? Like, I get that, like, all these people are corrupt, but what is your plan? Is it just to kill all these people? So, yeah, I was lost a lot of it. So I kind of felt like Batman, where I was going down the wrong path. I was, like thinking along with him, and I wasn't looking at the other clues.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, this was definitely a movie where I was not trying to outthink the characters, and I was like, he's gonna solve it for us, so I'm just gonna wait and let him solve it.
Lazy.
Well, because I don't mind. Like, hey, I'm not the detective.
I'm not
man,
Batman.
You know? I don't know how to solve those ciphers and crap. It didn't seem like they were impossible to solve because his old butler was like, oh, cipher easy money. But then he comes and he goes, "What if you did the negatory subtraction instead?" And he goes, "Oh, it makes it makes this giant word instead of the cipher being decoded into a message. It just makes a giant word out of the shapes of the cipher." And it was a little silly, and it was like, I'm sure general like problem solving people could have figured this out, but either way, I think it was great to have this build up of like, oh, he murdered this guy, left a clue. He murdered this guy, left a clue. He murdered this guy, left a clue. But at the same time, it felt like a lot of the action or like set pieces were a little unwarranted. They would just kind of throw Batman into something for no particular reason, and then just like run with it because it looks cool. You know?
I disagree a little bit. There was one part where Batman as the Batman, like dressed in the whole outfit, goes and visits Penguin, and there's not really a fight scene. Like after the Penguin is like, "Hey, come on, I'll just talk to you," he just sits and has a conversation in his Bat outfit, and they don't really take it over. Also, I thought a lot of the action in this was pretty good. Like we were kind of like for instance the car chase. Did you think the car chase was rad?
So that's what I'm saying though. It was designed to make you go, "Whoa, that was cool," but not designed to like service the plot. There was a lot of stuff. The introduction to Batman, right? It introduces Batman and he fights this guy, and they kind of show this character on screen who's one of the bad guys the whole time, and they're like focused on him, and you're like, "Oh, this guy's gonna play a role later." And then Batman beats up all the other guys, and this guy just looks at him, and then you never see him again. That guy plays no role in the rest of the movie. So they use the movie cues to show you, to put something in front of you and show like, hey, we're gonna set this up for something greater, something later, and then nothing comes of it. So it just feels like in that moment they're just indulging in movie making techniques for the purpose of, hey, we're gonna make this scene look cool. Yeah. And I thought the same thing about the Batmobile, because it just left me wanting more from it. They like start off and they're like, "Oh, it's a mystery. What's under this sheet?" Even though the Batmobile was in a ton of promotions, like we know he's going to drive the Batmobile. The Batmobile's sitting under a sheet and there's just piles of parts. So you're like, "Oh, is it busted?" They don't give us any reason for why it would be busted. They don't give us any reason that he's not driving it other than to be stealthy, because he rides around on his little motorcycle where he can like change quickly between Batman and Bruce Wayne, because he's just on a motorcycle. He's not on like the Batmobile.
Yeah.
So my challenge here is it sets up the whole movie like, oh, dude, oh, you're going to see the Batmobile. And then the Batmobile just kind of appears out of nowhere in a random scene, and it leads to a random car chase simply because he had the Batmobile. It didn't feel like the car chase was necessary to the plot outside of the fact that we need to use the Batmobile then.
Did you like the Batmobile, the way it looked?
I thought it looked fantastic. I wish that, because it shows the Batmobile under a sheet, it shows the stack of parts. He goes through a third of the movie not driving the Batmobile. Why not? Why not add a conversation where he talks to Alfred and goes, "Oh, we've got to get the Batmobile fixed. It's fucked up." And then like have somebody get away from him where he could have caught them if he had the Batmobile, and then a build montage where he has to work through all these stacks of parts to put the Batmobile back together. I mean, that's what I want. I want Robert Pattinson sweating under a car building the Batmobile.
That'd be hot.
The skinny Robert Pattinson.
Right. And then we think the Batmobile's not working. We're like, dang, this guy's going to get away again. And then boom, the Batmobile comes out of nowhere. And we're like, whoa, yes! Instead, it's just like, oh, okay, it's the Batmobile now.
Do you think that adding that scene and adding to the 3-hour runtime was maybe the reason that they didn't have a scene like that?
No, I think there's plenty more to cut off in the second half of the
Okay, so let's get into that aspect. One of the things in our non-spoiler review, we decided that some of the weakest stuff was like in the middle section.
Yeah, like if 3/3 the movie, like you have the first third, the second third, the third third. First third like is like a murder mystery. It's great, love it. Last third, you're like, okay, this is where something it pays off. But that like middle third, you're just kind of like, will they stop talking?
Yes, absolutely. I went in the movie, I knew it was 3 hours long. I have watched a 3-hour Batman movie, and I have not been bored a second of it, right? Because we've done it twice. The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises are both 3 hours
Pretty
long.
long movies, yeah.
And
really?
sometimes those, I feel like I can't get a breath because I'm like, holy crap, there's so much action, right? So this movie does well. I think the first third takes its time to breathe and then gives you the action. Takes its time to breathe, gives you the action. Great pacing. So we get like the 3 murders and they're all stacked up nicely in the first probably hour and 20 minutes. And then we cut and we just stop. Slam on the brakes. There's not a single action scene for maybe 40 minutes or an hour. There's just a conversation. And I can't remember, because I haven't seen the movie more than one time, where the Batmobile lands in this, but it may be at the end of the action or...
I think it's at the beginning of the last act.
Last act?
Yeah, because there's a lot... I think the problem with the second act, if you can call it a problem... I like the movie because I like smart Batman over superpowered fighting Superman Batman.
Was he even really smart Batman, though? Like, basically that middle part of the film was just him not knowing what to do next.
Yes. Well, I mean, like, the idea is, like, he's trying to figure out the aspects of what's going on. And I think that the problem with it is that there's a lot of strings that are going through the middle of the plot that aren't connected, but that get tied at the end together. And a lot of it's like, well, this is happening, and this other thing is also happening, and my dad's part of this plan too, and oh, Bruce Wayne's getting killed now, and all these things are dangling. Like it's based on the Long Halloween murder mystery Batman arc, and it's a really long book. It's it's like a real dense comic, and one of the problems with it is that, well, I guess there's not really a problem with it because it's all, it's what it is, but the story has a lot of like main characters and like mob characters. Like you have your main like Riddler, Joker, Two-Face. All those guys are in the movie, and then or in the comic, and are also in like butting heads with like just mob guys. So it's a lot of like who killed this guy, what's going on, and it's mostly a mob story. But what they were doing with this one was they added in Falcone, and it services the plot to an extent, but there's a lot of lead up to why he's the most important thing. And when he comes into the movie is when the movie gets to be a real, like, a little bit slower and a little bit harder to get through. And then when he dies, it ramps back up on the Batman side.
Well, and I think they're just kind of doing a little too much. Like, it's great that all these characters have all these interconnected stories, but again, you're trying to get a theater runtime, right? You want people to be able to sit down and watch this movie. This isn't your Zack Snyder Justice League, make it 4.5 hours. People are just going to watch it on their couch and pause it. I think my wife and I both reflected, hey, if I could have paused this and peed in the middle, I wouldn't have cared at all about the runtime. But like, I'm sitting here for 3 hours and I'm kind of bored for a little bit of this. So I wish, I wish I could pause it and maybe take a break and then be like, okay, I'm back to it. Or that there was something around every corner that was either shocking enough or engaging enough to keep me going. And I think that's where the middle of the movie really struggled. I don't think it hurts the overall performance of the movie, but it just feels to me like you could have cut one of the characters out. Why did Penguin really need to be in this movie?
Yeah, like they were. Well, I think that if they could have fixed this whole thing by making Penguin the guy instead of even having Falcone in it, because they basically run up to the point that it's him, and then they're like, and then he's like, I didn't have anything to do with that, whatever, blah 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 blah. And then they're like, oh, it's actually this other guy, and then the next 30 minutes of the movie is about them trying to get him. So they already got
because
the guy.
I think Penguin could have actually filled every role that Falcone did. He could have become Selina's dad. He could have been all those things that Falcone was set up to be, and it wouldn't have made a big difference. And that would have just like cutting the character fatigue would have been fine. And I think we get character fatigue from, the first part of the movie. This guy gets put into our brain, random subway guy who then like is like, oh, I don't know if I want to be with these criminals or not. Okay, that guy's taking up our character disk drive space because we expect him to come back. And then we like throw on the first guy that gets murdered. I'm like, oh, the mayor. Well, what's the deal with the mayor? We got to backtrack through the mayor. And then we've got like all these people that Batman talks to and investigates with. So we got like 3 or 4 cops who have pretty big speaking roles in that scene, and we're like, oh, okay, well now I got to track Gordon, I got to track this new commissioner, I got to track like this random cop because I'm thinking about, is he going to come back in a bigger role later?
Because you're trying to figure it out too, so you miss the little details that are being put in.
Right. So like a bunch of murders stack up, and every person that gets murdered has a big backstory, and we have to like track through it all and try to piece together this mystery. And I think that's an easy way to get fatigued on characters, is if you do too much for every character, right? The mayor could have just been the mayor. He doesn't have to be involved in everything. Maybe he can be involved at the end, but they alluded to it like, we have to figure out what's the backstory here, what's the connection here. And so you got to put on your thinking cap and wear it for 3 hours, and it gets a little exhausting, definitely.
Was that your big? Because we were talking about like what we thought about it, kind of like briefly, like after we all saw it, and you said that you had something specific that you were going to talk about, that you were going to get into. Was that your big thing?
So I think I've gone over it a little bit, and I think it's the fact that a lot of the scenes were made to be cool rather than made to service the script. And I think like the first scene where he was introduced, it's raining and he beats up these guys. Okay, it's cool, but it doesn't help us add to the main plot. And I thought the story with the Batmobile, I thought it was really cool, but I thought they didn't do enough to make us care that the Batmobile was out, because there was no reason that he wasn't using the Batmobile in the beginning, versus using it at the end. I mean, it's obnoxious, obviously, compared to the bike. So if he needs to be incognito, great, use the bike. But why wasn't he just in the Batmobile the whole time?
Because he wanted to be incognito.
Did you guys notice at the end of the film when you have Catwoman and him driving out on the bicycles or motorcycles? Not bicycles, motorcycles. He had like a bat bike finally.
Yeah, it had like a big fat back tire.
No, it had like actual bat ears on it. It was
did it? I didn't notice that.
It had a
From what I could tell, I thought it was the same bike the whole time, but I guess I wasn't looking that closely because they just kind of were like, look, it's a normal motorcycle, and so I didn't care like if it was a bat bike or not.
No, I'm pretty sure it was the bat bike. It was weird. Like, it made no sense to me how he just like switched motorcycles. Like, he's like, this is the one I wear incognito. This is the bat bike.
Yeah, I think it kind of adds to the little bit of overindulgence. I think near the end, after the movie ended, and then there was like 20 minutes left. Did you guys kind of notice that?
Yeah, well, I was kind of talking about this in our non-spoiler review. It's like, I know that when they were making the movie, they were planning on potentially not making it a sequel. And I was thinking about the part where, after the big battle at the end of all the like fake riddlers, right? He like jumps onto the electrical wiring that's dangling, about to kill all the people in the water, and he cuts it.
It looks like that. I mean,
it looks like that might be where he dies.
If you don't know much about electricity, do you know that that's going to kill people?
I mean, what? Maybe. I suppose. But then I know that if it touches water,
the wire goes to slow mo. He busts open his bat flare and he like slowly walks through the water. And it's like, man, this is really cool imagery. If it meant anything, it's just really cool, right?
So you think? I guess what we're getting down to is I disagree with a lot of the cool things. I think a lot of the really cool parts were the best parts of the movie. And I mentioned it in our podcast review where there's a lot of scenes where it will like slow down a little bit, and you'll see this like almost like painting piece, right? Like the part where you're talking where he's walking with the flare above his head, and like when the thing jumps through the fire, and you can see it, and it's like kind of slow motion a little bit, like in your head you're seeing it, or just even the introduction of the Batmobile, where it's like
I don't have a problem with slowing down to take in a cool scene. I do have a problem if it doesn't feel like it services the main story. And it doesn't feel like it's adding anything to what's already a 3-hour runtime movie. So either cut the stuff, if you want to make like a real filmic piece that's got a bunch of slow cuts and like a bunch of really drastic imagery, okay, then cut all the stuff that's not that and make that, But he kind of went ahead and said, I want to make a big mystery story where there's a lot of, over shoulder chit chat pieces. And then I also want to make a movie that has like really dynamic imagery and like really cool shots. So, I mean, like he wants to have the best of both worlds, turns it into a 3-hour runtime. And again, I complain about the 3-hour runtime. I don't care. I'll sit and watch a 5-hour superhero movie, a 6-hour superhero movie. People saying like, oh, the first cut of Avengers was 6.5 hours. I was like, great, release it. I'll watch it, But not everyone will do that. And I think it hurts the culture of superhero movies if you have something that people won't go see, if people won't see it just at face value because it's 2 hours, 55 minutes, do something different, because more people in the theater watching it. Sorry, go ahead.
Do you think that because the movie had a pretty massive opening, like it was well known that it was like a long movie. I agree with the idea that we shouldn't have 3-hour long movies because it's make it a TV show at that point, like a 5-episode miniseries. Just put everything in it that you want and release that. Like Peacekeeper came out this year, and if you made it a movie, it would be a 6-hour long movie, right? But you don't make it a movie; you make it an hour-long episode, 6 episodes.
Yeah, and I haven't finished that yet. But I think with Hawkeye, I mean, I had the same complaint, right? Hawkeye's 6 episodes, and episode 5 is just a bunch of conversations. It's like, man,
they don't know how long to make it, so it's like,
where's all the action?
Some of it,
Yeah.
But so so what were y'all's thoughts on the big man himself, on Pattinson himself? What are y'all's rankings of him?
Oh, I mean, great Batman. Par's the whole. Like,
Par's the whole.
It's hard for me because I was like during my formative years when Christian Bale was Batman. So in my mind, you go, hey, who's Batman? And I see Christian Bale grappling hooking into the tumbler and driving off, and I go, man, that's Batman. And he pulls up his wrist and he shoots his little things off his wrist, like, oh man, that's Batman.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's Christian Bale. It's because you can't, why is Tobey Maguire Spider-Man? Because when I was 6 years old and I watched Spider-Man in the movies, that's Spider-Man,
what it was.
And I really do appreciate new takes on it, and I really appreciate this take on it. Like, I thought he did a fantastic job, but I can't break that mentality of seeing Christian Bale as Batman.
Yeah. So, and Ryan, what are your thoughts?
I think Robert Pattinson was a great Batman, but I think I'm looking forward to what comes next.
Yeah, I thought
that one of the best parts about this film was this wasn't like, even in the first Dark Knight trilogy movie, or when Batman Begins, Christian Bale basically is already the perfect Batman from the start. Like, he defeats the villain, he gets the job done. He's already Bruce Wayne, suave and perfect. He's already the Batman that you expect. This was different. Like, this was Robert Pattinson learning to be Batman, not having Bruce Wayne at all. Like, Bruce Wayne does not exist in this film. There is no Bruce Wayne. There is Batman, and then there's Batman in disguise. Yeah. So I think I'm still like confused on how exactly they're going to move forward. And I wouldn't say that he's a complete Batman yet, but he wears the cowl well, but he's not Christian Bale to me yet. Christian Bale is Batman because he's both parts of the coin.
Yeah, he's good at both.
Absolutely. Yeah, they mentioned offhandedly once that Wayne Industries is not doing so hot, and I was like, oh, what's the problem? Never touched it again.
Oh, yeah, he's just like, I don't care. This is my legacy. And it's like, bitch, you need money.
Yeah. How do you keep this going? Also, Wayne Industries, multi-billion-dollar company. What do you mean not doing so hot?
Yeah,
the military stopped feeding money to American weapons companies, or what?
And I was expecting this big reveal and this big, like, oh, he's going to clean up. Because, like, you have Alfred come in and be like, oh, we have a meeting with these accountants for breakfast. And Bruce Wayne's, or Batman, not Bruce Wayne, Batman's like, fuck them. I'm not going to do that. And I was like, okay, so we get to see this whole scene where he's trying to pretend to be Bruce Wayne. No, we never get that scene. Like, maybe that scene was cut, but, like, we never got, like, a true Bruce Wayne scene. Like, he went to the funeral, but that wasn't Bruce Wayne at the funeral. That was Batman at the funeral.
Exactly. Yeah, Batman wore his Bruce Wayne costume out sometimes to be in public. And I totally agree with you. It was only to service the Batman storyline. And obviously this movie is all about Batman, right? But at the same time, one of the best elements of that character is the duality of him. But I think my overall thoughts on, like, if he plays the best Batman, I'm sure that there will be kids that are growing up right now and they'll think Robert Pattinson's their Batman, but now that it's been passed on through so many characters, I mean, I think Batman is probably the superhero who's been portrayed the most times.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes I'll be like, yeah, Michael Keaton, he did a great job. He was Batman. I'll never think of George Clooney as Batman, or the other Val Kilmer, I think, is the other guy.
Yeah.
As Batman. I'll think of Keaton as Batman. I'll think of Christian Bale as Batman. I'll even think of Ben Affleck as Batman, because I think he did a decent job for the little bit of time he got to. And I'll think of Robert Pattinson as Batman. But I think now we're getting into the muddy waters where Batman is just a character, and the actors who play him have to wear their Batman mask as best they can.
Yeah. For I guess sake of time, what would we grab a letter rating? If you were to rate the movie, we'll give our quick closing thoughts on the movie. Ryan, what would you rate this one?
I'd give it an A. I think this was a movie that was a good superhero palate cleanser because the superhero didn't win. The Riddler won. And I'd give it an A. I think it was a great movie. Good foundation of what's to come. I'm really excited for how if Matt Reeves continues doing these movies, I look forward to how it's going to play out.
Yeah. What do you think, Jay?
Absolutely. I'm going to agree mostly. I think I'm going to give it an A- because I think it had a lot of things I wanted, but it didn't tie the bow quite as tightly as I wanted it to. I did really enjoy the movie. I thought it was really great, and I feel like I'm complaining a lot, but that's kind of like
that's what we do with movies as fellow geeks. We enjoy looking at a movie that we love and poking holes in it. I can tell you how many times I'll make fun of something stupid that happened in Avengers in one of these widely acclaimed really good movies, or just making fun of something that happened in Spider-Man, which is the second highest grossing movie of all time now or something.
Yeah, I think so.
I think it's getting up there. Yeah, no, and I love the heck out of that Spider-Man movie, but it is enjoyable to go back and poke plot holes and poke negs at the movie. But yeah, so I really like it. I think I'm going to go to A- just because I don't think it fully deserved its runtime. I remember, Josh, you asked me to rank it among the Batman, and I said it was probably second as a film and probably fourth as an entertainment piece because as far as a film goes, you build up that industry, what people at the Oscars, that's great, I like that, but as far as an entertainment piece, fans go nuts for it. I think your Christian Bale Batmans are going to be on top of that because they're action packed all the way through, and they keep your interest.
Yeah,
I don't think
this would be more entertaining if you cut the middle bit out. If we were talking how if you cut Falcone out and you just make him the Penguin, it's more of an exciting movie because it's 2.5 hours. It's 2 hours or whatever, 2:15.
Lots more
and
action.
It's a lot more action.
If you're a little
2-minute ratio,
or if you're someone who doesn't speak English and you watch this movie, you're probably bored to death when they are talking, and you probably love it every time when they beat people up, when they crash cars through transport trucks and stuff. So I think if you give it the 6-year-old kid watching it rating, I fell asleep at 1 hour 30 minutes.
Yeah. I do. I agree with you.
Then I woke back up when the Batmobile starts, right?
Yeah, when it runs, when its flaming hood comes on.
Yeah,
it's just glowing with intimidation. One thing I didn't mention earlier that I want to ask real quick: what were your thoughts on the score? Did you think the score was amazing? It was 6 notes, but it was so intimidating and fully Batman.
Now I feel terrible because I didn't consider this at all.
You didn't even think about it?
Well, I did during the movie. I remember going, oh, there's the Batman theme again. I love this Batman theme, and I think it was fantastic. I almost wish they went a little further with it,
More than the 6 notes that they were doing, yeah.
Because they would play most of a song, and then the last 6 notes would be the Batman tune, and then they would cut it. And I'd be like, well, I wish it was a little more, I don't know. But I thought it was great. It was underlying. It was nicely subtle, but at the same time, very distinct from the rest of the score.
Yeah. I guess that's where we can end it. Does anyone have any final thoughts?
You never gave a letter grade.
Oh, my letter grade.
Yeah, what's your letter grade, man?
Let's see. I would probably give it an A. I don't really believe in A minuses, A whatever. It's just a straight A, just give it what it is. I thought it was good. I thought that there's, like we were saying, I think the middle bit was a little rough. I really like the portrayal of the Riddler in this movie, even though it's not really a Riddler. It's more of a serial killer at Gotham kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you could have potentially made that spin on a lot of characters, One thing I do not like is that they made hints toward the Joker, who is already locked up in
Blackgate not a huge
or whatever.
Fan of that.
Arkham.
My wife was like, "Is that supposed to be the Joker?" And I was like,
"It was a disgusting Joker laugh. It was one of the worst I've heard." But I can't help but think that was just one of the things where they're like, "Well, we're potentially going to do a sequel. Do we want to do the Joker? Let's introduce him real quick." So I think there's a lot of that toward the end.
I've had enough Joker.
I agree.
I agree.
I think with the comic book movies we've had, or the anime/cartoon movies we've had, with the Dark Knight trilogy, with the horrible Suicide Squad. I'm tired of the Joker. Like, there's so many better, like, I won't say better villains, but there's a plethora of villains that Batman has that haven't even been touched on the big screen. Like, I'd rather see Mr. Freeze come back than the Joker at this point.
And some that could be reinterpreted, to much better effect. We could still see a Bane who's like a psychopath who sucks back like superhuman enhancements all the time, instead of just a guy who talks funny,
Yeah.
And
like a more comic accurate version. And that's what I was thinking they were gonna get at when Batman injects himself with like the adrenaline. I was like, is that like some like low level Titan toxin? And he's like using it.
Yeah. There's a lot more directions to go. We've never seen a really good on-screen reason for Batman to have a Robin, and I think that'd be neat to explore, because Batman almost always has Robin, and in the movies they kind of don't care about Robin,
Yeah.
So I'd love to see them build up more of the character that is not just him fighting the Joker, because I get it, the Joker's iconic, the Joker puts people into theaters, but at the same time, I've had enough Joker.
It's been done to the maximum level already. So but I guess with that being said, thank you guys for all tuning into our spoilerific talk.
Okay, one more thing. Ryan, you're a civil engineer. You building your city 9 feet below sea level?
So I think it's different. I think potentially what happened, that this movie did have some climate change elements to it.
That's what I was going to say. Is this the dystopia where the sea levels have risen by 2 feet?
And they just had to build up the walls?
That's the only reason I can think of, honestly, because, I mean, you have New Orleans, which kind of is the situation, I guess, the same. But to have the overall infrastructure that's in place in Gotham, and then it have to be that low or that below sea level, just doesn't really make a lot of sense. Like, but if you think about it in general,
the sea walls are ridiculous.
Gotham never makes sense. Like, Gotham never makes sense.
Yeah, that's the part that you're missing, is that it's made that way because they wanted to make the worst version of the city. They found out, they're like, what's the worst thing we can do? It was that, or putting a nuclear reactor in the middle of the city, which was what happened in the Christopher Nolan
ones. You wouldn't build buildings because, like, OSHA or whatever has made it illegal to build buildings in flood zones. Every building would have to be built on stilts, essentially, in that town to be built after a certain year,
Yeah.
So I don't know. That part was one of the most ridiculous things. He goes, all of a sudden, like, it was never shown before, a picture of the ocean or how it related to the city. All of a sudden, Riddler's in the prison, and he goes, "You didn't find the..." Oh, no. Not even when Riddler was in the prison. It was in the video, and he goes, "Oh, you didn't find the vans that are going to blow up the seawall? Good luck." We go,
"You dumbass
vans?" And then just, boom, the whole city's flooded. We're all like, oh, that was really confusing. Okay.
Yeah.
And then his worst riddle of the day was, what's black and blue and dead? You, when you try to stop my plan.
I don't remember that one.
Very good thinking there, Mr. Riddler. But thank you guys for joining us. Thank you guys for helping me talk about this movie. I know that we all like these movies and love talking about whatever. So hopefully soon we'll have more entries into the Millennial Coffee Reviews. And enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah. Bye, guys.
Bye.